Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. It had to happen, didn't it? It had to happen. I've had so many guests over the last 15 months and people have been bending my ear and they're saying, you know what you should be talking about. You know what we want to hear about. And I go, I don't know. Is it a thing that I really want on the channel? Is it something? Do I really think it's important? All of this. You know what I'm going to say. You know that thing that we've been told that looks like a big melon with countries all written on it in different places? Imagine if a hammer came down and turned it flat. Flat Earth. I don't know what to make of this. So, on the channel today, to tell us all about the flat Earth and why I ought to be paying attention to this sort of thing, is my guest today. He is a flat earther. He is a researcher and a presenter. Goes around the country telling people about this sort of stuff. His name is Ian Leahy, and he joins me now. Hello, Ian.
Hello. Hello.
It's very nice of you to come on the show. The audience may know that I've been a bit reticent about this subject, and the reason I've been reticent about it is because mostly everything else that I have on the show is affecting people here and in the now. And I have, although people have told me about this and they've said, if you stand at this place and look on the horizon over there and, you know, why isn't it doing this and why is that? And you go, yeah, that's true. Okay, I can accept that. I'll accept all of that. But how does that affect me when I've got the enforcement agents coming along, taking my van, or, digital IDs are coming in, CBDCs, the Luciferians are flapping their wings and growing horns and doing things with children which they're not supposed to do in a nice world. So let's just start, first of all, before we get into anything. Why should I be paying any attention to it?
Good question. Firstly, all of the other things you mentioned, all of the child trafficking, all of the things that people have been able to be revealed to them, particularly since pretend convict, since that time where the majority of people have woken up. Flat Earth was something that came to me about a decade ago. I was stumbling across YouTube videos and it kept coming up, this flat Earth, and you think the same as everybody. What the hell am I interested in a medieval stupid theory for? What's the point? Well, it turns out that this is the big boss at the end of the video games. You have to go through all of your bits. And then if you understand this particular one, which is not a case of particular understanding, the world itself is measured flat. Every globe thing that you have, every measurement you have is measured on a flat Earth. It takes the GP from Polaris and it's measured flat, everything. And then they use a Haversine formula and a few other things to make it into the globe specific. That's fact. That's what happens. It's a measured flat Earth. But it's something that, because you're programmed, and we are all programmed, you know this, from your earliest age.
I am not programmed. I am not. Oh, wait.
I'm not programmed. But from the earliest age, this is the biggest secret that they have. Once they can convince you that you are insignificant, once they can convince you that you are one of many planets in a quadrillion, worlds and worlds and worlds, then you're insignificant. You've lost your power. You sort of lose your power almost immediately. It turns out that this is the center of creation, and this was made by a creator. And this is the only conspiracy that will get you to a creator. That was for me when we first met. You asked me, what was the significance of it, and the significance of it from all of the bits right to the end is they are hiding the creator. That's exactly what they're doing with this globe.
So, okay, there's a million questions, and before we started, I know you said you've got a presentation and you wanted to show that, and I said to you, not having a presentation on the show, I want to talk to you so that I can ask you questions and what have you, and you may show some bits and bobs. Now, I know a number of people that I've spoken to that sort of talk about flat Earth, and they said, oh, but Richard, and I've had emails right in the early stages, a lot of people were saying, if you stand here and you look there and all of this stuff. And I thought, okay, I can take that. So let's just assume that because we can't actually go anywhere right now, this second, and stand there and demonstrate that. So we're always having to take all of that stuff as read. that if you stand at a certain place and look in a in a straight line, you should see the horizon, but you don't. You see beyond it. So why is that? So let's just assume that it's flat. Let's not worry about all the measurement stuff, and let's just assume, okay, it's flat.
Mhm.
So then you get into the realm of what do you mean by flat? Because you've got, the old, is it like a piece of, is it a plane?
Flat is a description of level and horizontal. That's what it is. Topographically, we have mountains, hills, valleys. We're not insane people and we think it's all flat. But it is not. There is no measurable. This is a very important thing to say. There is no measurable curvature anywhere on this realm, on this plane. There is none. Now,
Okay.
the scientists and the globe pushers will tell you there is a specific measurement of curvature. It's just under 8 inches per mile squared. That's everywhere, north, south, east, west. So if you're at the seaside and you're looking out, you've had this, you do see the ship go, but that's 3 miles away. So if your brain can't work out that if it's 3 miles away and it's going down, how on earth can the Earth be about 100 miles round? Doesn't work that way. People don't use that in their computation. You'll also see a horizon from left to right with no curvature. We do see in a dome like atmospheric dome pattern. So, and the shapes of our eyes see both ends when you're looking down curve, but there's no measurable curvature anywhere on Earth. And
Yeah,
like I
no,
say,
I'm happy to accept that. So here we are. We're on this flat plane or flat something. But what I'm trying to get to is if we're one of the arguments is then, well, what do you mean by that? Is there an edge?
well, you may see a map behind me. It's the
Yes.
Alexander Gleason map of 1892. Am I right? 1892. In all of the maps previously, all of the flat Earth maps, you don't see Antarctica. Antarctica is what they tell you is a continent on the bottom of a spinning ball in the shape of a brain that's 12,000 miles in circumference. That's a lie. It's just a complete fabrication. Cook in 1770 sailed 80,000 miles. He was the first to sort of breach the Antarctic waters, and he tried to make an inlet, sailed 80,000 miles, which is insane considering they tell us the globe's only 24,901 miles. And obviously you're prevented from going any further or any independent travel because of something called the Antarctic Treaty, which doesn't let anybody independently travel past the 60th south parallel. You can go to Antarctica if you like, go and see some penguins, go and do all that. You're not allowed to explore independently. That's off limits. And if you try and abide by the Antarctic Treaty, it turns out it's actually impossible as well as incredibly costly. So they've got it sewn up. And the ice wall that you'll see on the map behind me, this is Antarctica. Antarctica encircles the flat Earth. And that's really what keeps the oceans in. All water, as you're probably aware, needs a container. Everything needs a container unless you want to see it all falling away. And we believe that's what it is. That's what keeps the oceans in.
And where would it go if it was to fall away?
We have no idea. We don't know. We believe this is the shape of our Earth. Antarctica has 200-300 foot ice walls. All of it is provable to the Antarctic shoreline. And it's basically what keeps the water in a container. It's like if you have I guess, a pond or a swimming pool, the sides keep the water in. And that's what you need. You need water to be contained. Otherwise, it does just go everywhere.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm happy to accept right from the beginning. The premise is that it's flat. I don't need to, because I can't prove all the other stuff as about the looking and all of that. So there we are. So if you open it up flat, you've got Antarctica going around. Nobody will let you go past it because nobody wants you to see what's on the other side.
Yeah.
And presumably somebody has been there and seen what's the other side in order to sort of.
There is some documented evidence. Admiral Richard Byrd was going to Antarctica from about.
I've got a book of his. Well, the flight, his somebody.
There you go.
I bought it. I bought it.
There's actual video of the land. He does an interview in the 60s on Longines chronoscope and explains, there's a lot more land down past the geographical South Pole, as it were. land bigger than the United States that nobody's ever seen. And he'd been flying down there, has full of resources, full of everything else. So if you're going to find land or extra resources, you're not going to let anybody go there, right? You're just going to, you're going to hide it off. You're going to protect the sides. There's no independent travel there. The same way as there's no independent air travel. You can't do any independent space travel. You couldn't launch a rocket without going through NASA. And of course, there's a roof on it. There's a roof on this realm. It's called the firmament or the rakia, and it's detailed quite a lot in ancient cultures, biblical scriptures. And there's plenty of evidence of when they send the rockets up and you see them like skimming on the top, it all goes blue. It's like a water motorboat effect if you do it on the sea that we have here. It's exactly the same thing up there. We're not sure what it's made of. It's about 75 miles high. No one goes to space. And you obviously see when they come off at Cape Canaveral, they go over like that and they go bang straight into the Bermuda Triangle. You can't go there. It's very dangerous to go there. Remember those things. And that's where all the wreckage has been found. That's where they go. They don't go to space. Nobody does.
So are you saying that effectively that we are all in one of those little paperweights? You know, those little paper, you shake it and the snow comes out.
It's a very good analogy. Some do. I'm not saying that's where we are. I think it's a very high possibility for a couple of reasons. We have to be contained. You and I are breathing air at 14 psi, there or thereabouts. It's a pressurized environment that we're in. That's how we breathe. So it has to be contained. All of the ancient cultures had the snow globe effect, had that thing. All of their land masses were pretty much identical. They all had the dome on the top. And it all comes from biblical scripture. It's all from that. And that's really how the ancients used to perceive the world. They understood the fixed stars, the wandering stars. They understood how to do crops. They were quite happy with it being flat. And this is something I say, when you're looking at this sort of reality, if you were just dropped into a field, never been here before, your first senses, your God-given senses, which is how you work reality out, it's not going to say, well, I think we're spinning faster than the speed of sound whilst traveling in 4 different directions at nearly 70,000 miles an hour. Those things don't come into your senses, but that's what you're programmed. That's what you have to believe if you believe you live on a globe.
Okay. So, what I suppose there's a number of things there in that if somebody has made up the story about the globe, somebody obviously knows it's not a globe. You know, if you're telling a lie that we live on a globe, then somebody knows that we're not on the globe. Now, would you say that those people who know that we're in a globe, or not in this globe, and they're perpetuating the lie, NASA and all these others, then they either know what's over the range of Antarctica that's surrounding us all, or they don't. But
For
they
sure,
don't.
for sure they do. I'm quite sure they do. They've been Richard Byrd was going down to Antarctica in a sailboat since 1928. I think they got the first research stations up in the 60s, 70s, and it's insane since there. They have particle accelerators there. They have all sorts of various bits and bobs and tech there. There's also a thing about sky ice, which means that I've read something about sky ice. They try to get through the sky ice, the blue ice, and it just keeps reforming. There is a barrier there, a barrier, plasma, same with the roof, and then it goes harder and harder into whatever, but it's mainly water, and then it will get solid, like all the descriptions of it.
So, do you think the people who know, who don't want us to know, have ever been there?
Funny you should say that, because a few years ago do you remember people started going down there? The Pope went down there, John Kerry went down there, I think a couple of presidents went down there. I don't know why they went down there. I don't know what sacrificial nonsense or ritual they were doing, or maybe they'd found something that was specific to the thing. But I'm quite sure that they're aware fully of it. I mean, Richard
But
Byrd
can
was
they get there? Can they? I mean, what I suppose all I'm trying to find out is if we're contained in this bit. Can they go over there and if so, as you say with Richard Byrd, he's
I don't
seen
know.
it.
I don't.
Right.
The honest thing, Richard, is we don't know. This thing behind me is our pond. It's our puddle. We're
Yes.
surrounded by the ice wall. There could be infinite puddles across this huge plain. I have no
Yes.
idea how big the dome or the rakia could be. Um, there's an ancient map in a Japanese. I've got it in the presentation, which shows many, many outer lands past
Yes.
the Antarctica. So there's also we use when we do research, we find out what's going on. We look at traffic, aircraft, see where things are going down there. Not so long ago, there was a huge container ship, a massive 300 meter container ship, which was 400 miles into Antarctica. That's where it showed up on the, you can like the flight radars. There's one for
Mm.
ships, and we've not seen that before. We have no idea what they're doing. They're obviously going out there, either setting up. We don't know if this little pond we're in, is what we don't know if it's an experimental playground. We have no idea. The Vedics used to think that the plane that was created by God was I think it translated to about 4 billion miles long. So there could well be many, many other lands. We just don't know. And we are
So
finding
okay,
them.
so let me just. I just want to sort of take this a little bit further then, because this is one of the things that I was wondering about flat Earth, if and this whole idea that we're in this zone which you cannot leave, in which we have nefarious people who want to control all of us in this zone. If there's something outside the zone that's better than what we've
Mm.
got, why the hell haven't they just sort of bogged off over there and live over there and leave us alone?
We don't know if they haven't. We
No, no,
don't know
well,
if they're
okay,
not. We don't know if
no.
they're not going over there. That's the
If
thing.
if it's not as nice over there, why have they not shoved us, who they clearly don't like, over there,
Well,
and then
this
had
is.
this bit to themselves?
we Totally agree. Totally agree. You're probably aware of and familiar with resets, the Great Reset.
Mm.
No, we have you gone dipped into the hidden history, Tartaria stuff, Antiquitech, and things like that? Because at some point between the 17 and 1800s, there was a worldwide mud flood. We are products, I think, of orphan trains. Not we don't have a lineage beyond where we think we have. And I think perhaps cyclically or deliberately in each cycle, they have a do over, and they may be bringing people in from other lands. They may be bringing people in and things like that. I don't know if that's a thing. That's a ridiculous theory, not backed up by any proof, but that is something that is tangible in terms of what we can see. But as far as we do know, all the ancients used to think it was just a snow globe, but some used to think there were further lands, and how it worked, we don't know. But that's just what we know.
What about the people who the amateur astronomers out there who sit at home? They're not part of any conglomerate. They're not part of any um, conspiracy or anything. They just sit there, like my dad used to do with his telescope, and sort of, oh yes, I can see such and such moving over to so and so, and would be interested in that. And some, of course, much more serious than others, who are seeing the stars and things moving about. What do you say to those people?
Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, all the stars move in unison, apart from the wandering stars, all named after gods, Mars, Jupiter, etc. They have all their own individual spirographic energy movements.
Hmm.
All the other stars move exactly the same in unison in a dome-like pattern forever, night after night. You'll notice it. You'll see the plough and its same relative thing. Night after night, it moves round Polaris all year, and that's what it does. And you're supposed to believe that we're traveling 6 billion miles a year at ridiculous speeds, but we see lakes that are flat and calm, and you see the same stars night after night. We don't move. We don't go anywhere. There's no scientific test or measurement for movement. The one that they have is the ridiculous one, which is Foucault's pendulum. You may be aware of it. You may have seen it in the National History Museum. It's a pendulum that swings and it moves 15 degrees an hour, which is proof claimed that the Earth is turning, which is insane because it would mean that the reference frame of the Earth would have to be spinning underneath the pendulum. But it doesn't work for helicopters. It doesn't work for planes. You can hover for hours in a helicopter and you won't move. It does not move. It's fairly obvious that once they sort of told you that planes can go faster than the speed of the rotation of the Earth, it's fairly obvious to anyone with eyes to see.
Would not the atmosphere go with it though? Like if you were in a lift, the old thing about the lift, You get in a lift on the 500th story, and all of a sudden the cable breaks and the lift is going down, and just before you land, you jump.
Yeah,
But
you are
actually,
contained, Richard. You're contained in something, so your air pressure is contained within that thing.
yes, but I'm just saying if that's the Earth, but the atmosphere is also part of it. So would not the atmosphere and everything? So you could be in your helicopter and hover, and nothing is moving because everything is moving.
No. Well, then why would it move under a pendulum?
I've no idea. I haven't seen that.
It's the
So
same. It's the same thing. It's a very. It's still used as a proof today. It's called Foucault's pendulum. It's a French guy in the 1850s.
right.
It's the most ridiculous experiment to prove nothing.
What about astrologers then? Because they watch the heavens very clearly
Absolutely.
and watch all of that and can tell us, what's happening based on when we're born and all those things.
Yeah. I mean, firstly, you're told that the stars are trillions and trillions of miles away. They're not. They're literally embedded in the firmament a few thousand miles away. That's it. That's it. Even if it's that high. Um, Chinese or any astrology wouldn't work or be viable on your body if something was so far away it wouldn't have any sort of electromagnetic effect. It's nonsense.
I don't know. Well, I can argue against that
Okay.
only because in the last 15 months I've spoken to so many interesting people, and things like bioresonance.
Mhm.
You can you can be on the other side of the world, but you can have a strand of somebody's hair and you can affect them because, like blood talks to itself, water talks to itself over distance. If because we look at the world in a 3D world and we think of time as being linear, but other people are giving the idea that time isn't linear. It's all happened, it's all gone at once, but our perspective is that we're watching it in a different
Maybe
way.
that is the case, but if there's an experiment, this is the thing with flat Earth. If there's an experiment to prove the claim that you just said, and it's done within the scientific method, I would absolutely believe it, Richard. And this is the thing with the flat Earth. It's done scientifically. It has to follow a scientific method. NASA and the scientists, the pseudoscientists, they don't do this. They have no interest in the scientific method. And Michio Kaku explains in the scientific realm of space, they are something like 10 to the 100th, 120th power of not knowing anything about it, which is bizarre because they tell us everything. It's only recently that they just said the moon was in our atmosphere. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? Not so long ago, they made this ridiculous discovery that the moon all of a sudden was in Earth's atmosphere.
I
Bizarre.
suppose it depends how much you define where Earth's atmosphere is, isn't it? Because
Exactly. I mean,
you could say it just keeps going and keeps going for millions of light years, I
yeah,
suppose. So I mean, okay, so assuming that that's all true, and I've got no, I'm not here to sort of say it's not true. I'm
no,
not
that's
here to
great.
poo-poo anything. I want to find out more to say, okay, let's go with that, because that's trying to be as open-minded as possible and just thinking what the audience might ask and go, oh, well, what about this? And I'm sure the audience don't talk in that silly voice that I often
You have
put
no
out.
idea. They may well.
They may well. But I suppose we come back to that, whatever it is, if it's flat, another question is what's underneath? Is there an
Well, this
underneath?
that's a very good question. In scientific terms, we have no idea. You have no idea if there's a core there. The furthest humankind has ever drilled into this earth is 12 kilometers. That's it. That's it. The ground penetrating radar is about 200 feet. That's the best military stuff we have.
And the
Maybe a bit further.
oceans, are they no deeper than that?
Well, if you're going from it, if you look at it, it's called the Kola Well in Russia, 2010. It's the deepest borehole we've ever had. Every step of the way, all the geology people that said, "Oh no, this sediment at that level is
Mm.
this," it was completely wrong. All of it was completely wrong. And at 12 kilometers or so, we can't go any further. We don't know. We don't have the tech to do it. So when they say,
And
"Oh,
what would
there's a
happen
there's a
if?
molten core 3,000 miles in the Earth," you have no
Mm.
idea. That's an absolute nonsense. There's no proof or scientific method to prove that. What you have, they also tell you that it causes the magnetic field. Well, molten metal of any kind that's magnetic loses its magnetism when it's molten in a molten state. So I don't know why they're saying these stupid things. And if you were in the sea, if you were as far down as you could possibly go, surely there would be some warmth. Surely it would be getting warmer the further you went down, just in logic terms. It doesn't work like that.
There might be a plug hole.
There might well be a plug hole. There might well be, yes.
I mean,
Well,
anything's possible.
that's
And
bizarre because in the center of our Earth, that's where all your compasses point, is north. And it's right in the center of this map here, right in the center point. That's where everything points to. Back in the Mercator maps, and even further back than that, Alberno Monte maps show a mountain in the middle, a magnetic mountain. Some call it Meru, and you have four rivers, um, and they seem to breathe. They seem to breathe in and out. So I don't know if there's a plug hole there or whatever, but you're not allowed to go north either. You have to remember that you're not allowed to. There's certain restrictions around the Arctic as well that you can't go to. So it's really hard unless it's like we all have to rise up and do something at the same time, whether it's all go to Antarctica, go to the Arctic, go and throw all the presidents, everybody in the sea, whatever it is, it all has to be done in unison. It's going to be very difficult unless everybody's awake and knows
so,
what
do you
they're
think
doing.
there was a time when people did know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, don't forget you had hot air balloons that used to go miles and miles, thousands of miles. There was no restrictions in travel. There was no restrictions in borders at that time. And so for sure, yeah, I think I would find it very difficult to believe that no one has gone beyond Antarctica in a hot air balloon. I don't know, is the honest answer. I don't know. There's not too much documented evidence of that. So that
Hmm.
one of the only evidences that we have is Richard Byrd. He is a Freemason, as were all the Apollo astronauts, as were the whole people, Copernicus, Kepler, all of them, all Freemasons. Whether we had 1,000 years of timeline inserted just to get these characters or not is debatable. Um, but it would be interesting to know that there is extra land there. And I think at some point, if you want to go, it's protected militarily by the UN. There are 7 islands around the Antarctic Circle, as it were, all controlled by British military. So one of them being the Falkland Islands, it's quite near to the Antarctic thing, and they're all dotted around. So it's going to be difficult to even try to go there. That's the problem.
Do you think that then the British military that are protecting this, there must be people there who are going, "What's this all about?" Then we're just sort of
Well, I think I
protecting
think
this.
it's
I mean,
I think it's plausible deniability. I think if you're a soldier, you're
mm,
generally an order follower. You're generally
mm.
a do this. This is your job. That's fine. You don't talk to, and you just get on with your life. The same as the research people down there. They go in there. They're very, very controlled. You're not allowed to do much. They do their work. They go back to their thing. It's not free. You can't freely move about. So I'm quite sure. I mean, there's plenty of military people that understand flat Earth, helicopter pilots, plenty of ordinary pilots understand it. Just next time you're on a plane, go and speak to the pilot and ask him, does he adjust his plane at all for any curvature of the Earth? And they will all tell you, no, the Earth is flat. Back in 2016, two Qantas pilots came out they wanted to start talking about it. They got fired, and then it was all sort of hushed up. And then the presentation you saw me do was the censorship of the whole subject. But in the last 3 years, scores, hundreds of pilots are coming out and saying, yeah, there's no curvature. It's an airplane, not an air globe. It goes up, it flies along the plane, it lands. That's what it is. Um, so yeah, I mean,
what keeps
expert
what
witnesses.
what keeps the ice then in that circle?
Excellent point. Excellent point. The sun, how we've all been led to believe, is not 93 million miles away. If you measure it with a sextant, nautical sextant, it's about 32 miles across, and it's a very difficult. Measured, it's 3,000 miles in the sky. The sun we see, I'm not sure if it's the actual physical sun. I think it might be outside. It projects the light in. I don't know. But that is small and close. So it moves around. We don't move. So the sun moves when it's our summer, it's around let me just If I just move that,
Yeah.
if you
I'll
bear with
just
me,
go. There we go.
our sun in our summer moves around. Here's all our major land masses here. The UK's here, America, South America, etc., Australia. In our summer solstice, our sun moves very slowly around here. That's why our days are so long. But every 3 months, it gets further and faster and moves out. And eventually, it goes round to the Tropic of Capricorn. And the sun moves between the tropics. Capricorn is here, equator here, Tropic of Cancer here. And it stays and moves within those. So it doesn't go outside. It doesn't go out into Antarctica enough to melt it for good. What it does do is it gets there to give you light around it. And obviously they have a summer too. It's not as
Mm.
cold. So they are getting a bit of warmth from the sun, but it doesn't go out far enough. And then obviously it just works its way in and out in a clockwise pattern. Small, further out, further out, further out, further out. And the whole thing is done cyclically every single time. So that's how the sun works. That's how the sun moves. That's how all the ancients understood it to work. It's observationally, that's how it works. We tracked the sun about 4 years ago, where we tried to track it. Sorry, terrible camera work here.
It's
We
all
tried to
right.
track it everywhere that we could go. So we had people all across the plane telling us exactly when their solar noon was. We'd make a part of it, and people wrote books. There's a guy called Antonio Subras. He's passed now. He wrote a book about the journey of the sun. So it can be observably shown to be exactly what the ancients thought and exactly how it moves the way we think it moves.
You know, you see when you go to a museum and you see these old brass images of the planets, and they've all got arms holding the balls on.
Yeah,
When you described the sun, I was thinking, is this then the sun on a in a giant version on basically an armature that's like a big clockwork thing?
well, yeah, I mean, the Vedics do say that. The Vedics say that the sun's on a chariot and it's held by Polaris, which is the star that's right above the North Pole. It's the only star in the sky that never moves. And it's like a pivot star, to which all the other stars revolve. So, yeah, sorry, what was the question?
The question was in you see in the museums these
The holding
like
arm,
the
yeah.
Newton's planets or whoever it was, and they all move like this, but they're obviously on metal spikes, L-shaped things that
Yeah.
collect
I
to
think it's just to show how they
yeah.
can
But
move
I just
around in
wondered,
there.
is that what's really happening? That are
I
we
don't think so. I don't think
right?
so. I
Okay.
think the sun is projected. Some people say that there's the black sun underneath Mount Meru. The light comes
Mm.
up, hits the dome, comes back, and forms the sun. I don't know how real or how true that is. What I do know is the information we have of the sun is it was created as a light to govern the day, and the moon was created as a light to govern the night. They're both the same size. The sun is antiseptic, warm and healing. It grows. The moon, by the way, is not. It's cold and it has its own cold light. It may reflect the sun on certain occasions, but it doesn't produce its light. It produces its own cold light. You can go and do that experiment. That was quite a weird one for me, to find out that it is producing a very cold light. Yeah, very cold light. And it's not round. It's not a ball. When there's a full moon, you have equal light from edge to edge. If you shine light on, no disrespect, Richard, on your head right now, to
Mm.
your right, there's a bright spot, and then the shadow goes off because it's on the other side. That doesn't happen on the moon. It's equally lit all round, bang. So some form of disc or something, and we're not sure. So it's a projected light, and for 2 days of every month, it's not visible anywhere. It's a new moon.
That's because they didn't put 50p in the
I
meter.
think that's what it is.
That's
Yeah.
what that is. Okay, so you mentioned that this is about hiding God, as it were, or making us look tiny by telling us we're in this ball.
Mm.
By being in a dome and having this sort of almost mechanical sun type thing, it sounds as if there's not so much a source or all the kind of things that we've thought about being God and the universe and things. And sort of, it sounds like there's a much more mechanical minded something that has created this. It seems less
I
natural.
think it would be probably be very naive to say it's a mechanical thing. I think the divinity of this realm is beyond something mechanical. I don't think it's something we'll perhaps ever know. I don't know. Maybe we will. I think where we think it's been created is quite simply when you read scripture, when you understand it, what you'll find is there's 240 verses in the Old Testament alone that state that the earth is fixed and immovable. It's on pillars, and it tells you there, and it clearly doesn't move, right? So you have to get those scriptures. You have to try and work those scriptures with other ancient cultures to come to a conclusion of, wow, okay, So it does take a little bit, but it's like I say, there's no scientific test or measurement for motion or for curvature. There's been a few failures, abject ones.
So,
Um,
if you when you introduce the Bible, it starts becoming a bit tricky
yeah, I
because
mean, I'm not.
no, I'm just well, what I was going to say is if the because the Bible says that man was placed on the earth and this was our domain
He
and we were
also
above the animals and all of
true.
that sort of nonsense. So I mean, I can understand that if you had a colony of ants and you put them into a cup
Mm.
and you go, all right, guys, that's your domain. Anything you see down there, you can eat and do whatever you like with. Are you suggesting and that's kind of what's gone on, that we've been plonked into this cup or this bowl, whatever it is, and
I would suggest that that's what's happening since we've been aware that the Earth is flat, for sure. What's happened previous, I don't know, but it does make a logical sense that if we're not allowed to leave this place, if we cannot leave this place, perhaps, um, then there's something metaphysical that happens in this realm that either allows people to keep coming back to this realm or they come from elsewhere. The reason the reason I'm not saying we, not all flat earthers use the Bible or scripture for it, but it's something you can't avoid because it tells you exactly where you are. The book of Enoch tells you exactly what the stars were, who the angels were, what happened. All of these, that's obviously not in the Bible. Um,
presumably the Bible though was written in a time when there were no scientific instruments, so people could only observe things with their eyes and would go, well, it looks flat.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
And
why
you'd
would they
think,
do?
yeah, but that's right. So you'd expect at least somewhere along the line in history there would be a scientific test or measurement for motion, curvature, or any movement, or in fact, anything that's scientifically provable. And it turns out there's not. So you tell me. Don't forget, before pretend COVID, people used to have a jab and think they were being saved. And
Well, that's right. I mean, you can lie about all sorts of things,
this is
obviously.
the point. It's difficult when I'm talking to you here. It's a shame. You'll see the presentation. You'll see things
Yeah.
that you've not seen, and people get a better understanding when they're looking with their eyes as well. So
Well, hopefully people can come and see you and do and see the presentation. What you mentioned the sort of medical intervention and other things like that, which are very much controlling, and then you look. Most things go back to money, of people being controlled for money. Is there a money related thing with
for
this
sure.
flat Earth?
Well, first and foremost, NASA get $60 million a day of taxpayer money. $60 million a day.
Yes, I haven't
To
given them actually my
Yeah,
million. I
I'd
must
given
hand
mine
it
out
over.
earlier.
Sorry,
Yeah. But and they give you images, CGI images. They don't give
very
you
kind.
real footage. There is no real footage of most of these things. When you see them on the pretend space station, or when you think they're in space, there's harnesses. They used to do harnesses, wires, and now it's virtual reality, layers, and green screen still. And they're rubbish at it. They are rubbish at it. And it's like the Black Swan. You only have to show one mistake, error, or complete nonsense before you can just unravel the whole thing. And that's what flat earthers did because they weren't believing what their eyes were showing. And then of course you go onto this thing and it's there. It's all there in front of you. And it's just being able to tune in to find it, I think, like with most things.
What happens when you die?
I don't know, but I do say to these things about when you're talking about the sky and stars and all these other things, it bears no real resemblance on the fact that the Earth is a flat level plane. But I sort of always try and put that in. But where we die, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, the reason I say that is that people obviously are quite spiritual these days, and obviously people have been spiritual in many times, but more people are talking about it now. They're talking about the Book of Revelation. I've been told that millions of times by my emailers. And others are sort of talking about a great moment where the Earth is separating from itself, and there's something called the crystal spiral, and a whole host of different things that's all happening. And this is a pivotal year for a number of reasons. But when you die, I suppose in the conventional world that we've had, that here's this planet, and you go off into some sort of different realm or whatever it is, and some people say yes, you come back and live another life and all of those sort of things. Does that change the perception if you think of this as being in a dome? And there are other places elsewhere. Could it be that?
Well, I think one of the things you have to consider in this realm is that it's a 3D realm, and we're in this meat suit that requires oxygen. We have our bodies designed and developed, perhaps in the image of God. We are a walking miracle, obviously, but we need air, so we need a pressurized environment in order to breathe, to function, to work. So, like I said, this could be just one of many types of things where humans go. We honestly don't know, but from what we can research, this is what we have. This is the information we have, and it's backed up by ancient cultures, and it's backed up by scripture. If you want to go that way, it's also backed up by scientific experiment that we do rather than the pseudo nonsense. So where do we
Some
go when we die? I really don't know. I'd like to think that there is a heaven, but you hear all
Is
these
that just another bowl somewhere else,
Well,
another domed?
when if you're going to go, I go back to the scripture thing again. But God divided the waters from the waters. He put the roof on, so we are underwater. Above there is water. Okay, that's the deal. He separated the waters from the waters. So we're in the midst of the water with a roof on. We can't get wet, but obviously there was a flood. Uh, Windows of heaven opened, etc. The shoal came up, etc.
So you're saying that there might be a leak in the roof, and sometimes
No,
water.
there's in scripture and within various other things, there's something called the windows of heaven. There's something called the summer gate. There's something called a few things that may get us in and out of this realm. We're prevented from finding out, but the windows of heaven opened to cause the flood, the great flood, the Noah flood. And obviously the seas came up as well. So I would assume the whole thing was water and flooded. And you do see various things at like 3,000 feet high. There's gigantic whale structures, whales, and they're all petrified. If you've not gone down the petrification thing yet, for all of the giants and all of the giant animals, it will blow you away. This realm, goodness knows who we are, which version of humans we are. But there were giants here, dictated to in the Bible, the Nephilim. They came bred with the daughters of men, that sort of thing. And there were crazy. There was crazy stuff here. There was crazy creatures, crazy animals, and then there's us. And we're sadly in this place. We're not sure if we can leave or not, but we're finding out about it.
And some people say that everything that out there from our perception is a hologram, and that we create what we do. We create, our karma, and we can manifest our futures and things to us, and all of that. And people have been looking through telescopes, electric telescopes, and they see sort of endless worlds going down, and all in sort of spherical things. It's not hard then, I suppose, to think that we're part of that. At so below, so above, or
It's a
so
very
above, so
yeah,
below.
it's a very it's an interesting concept. It's like the basketball's round. Why is the basketball court not round? You're seeing lights in the sky. When you look through a telescope, even an amateur one, you get a fairly decent high res image. It's a pretty good one, and it's okay. It's not the CGI that NASA show. It's just completely not anything like they show us. Um, Very difficult. It's very difficult to, I mean, everything you see in the sky, like I say, doesn't purport to being the Earth being flat. That's just part of the realm that we're in. Uh, I don't know what the stars are. I don't know what they are. They're not planets. They're not balls, gas
How do you
balls,
know they're not planets?
because when you can see them, you can see what they are. The planets, Mars, Jupiter, etc. They are opaque lights, and they have a shape to them that they're opaque. They're not dusty balls. You can't see that far. Doesn't matter what decent telescope you've got. But NASA give you an image portraying that. When you see, I've got some great stuff in my presentation about stars and what they are and how you see them. They're nothing like you're told. They're not very far away, and it would be pointless if they were far away. Like we said about the Chinese astrology, they're very close. They have a very strange effect on our psyche, on us. It'd be pointless if they were a quadrillion miles away and they all you saw was this tiny little light. They're not far away. When we send up weather balloons, some very, very strange stuff. NASA can't admit whether they see the stars on the moon or not. They've never been to the moon, but they argue amongst themselves. You know, there's footage of say, "Oh yeah, you see the stars really bright," and then they say, "Couldn't see them at all." When we send up amateur weather balloons, of which there are hundreds of experiments that people have done, you send them up and you see about 120,000 feet. It's obviously completely flat and stationary, but you stop seeing the stars after a certain level up. It's very bizarre. I don't know.
So it's almost like you've gone through the star layer.
Possibly. We don't know. It's very, very strange. It's a very we don't know what they are. They're not what we do know for a fact is everything we've been told about the Earth, space, and everything else is a fabrication to keep us small and insignificant.
And why do you suppose they want to do that?
Free energy, money, control, all the usual suspects. I mean, if you've got a downtrodden, stupid society, I mean, you've just gone through the last 4 years where you've seen a multitude, a plethora of stupid people.
Mm.
Well, if you can control large numbers of people to make them, well, stupid and not question, really, that's the point, is making them not question. You're taught at school, sit down, be quiet, listen to the
Mm.
teacher,
Mm.
don't argue back, don't do any of that. You know the score. And that's what they've done, and that's how this society has been run. So it's very easy to sell wars. It's very easy to sell injections. It's very easy to sell anything to someone who's not prepared to question. When COVID came, mostly women woke up. When I woke up about 10 years ago from Flat Earth, it was only men for some very strange reason. It was a very masculine thing, I guess.
So
Convict turned out to be a feminine one, and women woke up in their quadrillions. And
yeah.
once like I
So
say, it's the black
okay.
swan. Once you know you've been lied to, what else are they lying about?
So if the theory then is that they want to control us, there is I think it's a film, isn't it, called "Stop the World, I Want to Get Off." Um, they presumably don't want us to leave.
I don't think they really care about us at all. They certainly don't want us to leave, and they certainly prevent you from doing so by the Antarctic Treaty and
Well,
ending dependent
that's
travel.
really my point, because if they want to control us, they need us for whatever reason, whether it's our energy, whether it's our pineal gland, whether it's something else, whether it's just, to me, the ability to make money seems to be ridiculous
I
because
think,
they can
Richard,
print money as much as they damn well like. So it just seems that if the theory is that they haven't told us this because actually there's a door that we could leave if we don't like tyrannical governments and things. And do you know what? Like I think
Truman
it was,
Show.
yeah, like instead of going to say Mexico or somewhere to live, like we mentioned beforehand, that some people might want to go to because up until recently they weren't,
Yeah,
controlling the sky. But if there is a door, if there's an exit that people go, do you know what? Actually, look, if we all go this way, and 8 billion people, assuming there are 8 billion people on the Earth or whatever, and who's actually counted them?
exactly.
If people did actually just leave and said, do you know what? You can have all this nonsense. You've wrecked it, for one thing. You've filled it with chemicals. It's all radiation poisoning. We don't want it. If there's a door and there's these new lands that are beyond, and we just go, thanks very much.
Exactly.
We'll go. And clearly they don't want us to, assuming all of this is true, they surely don't want us to suddenly say, cheers and thanks for all the fish.
Well, they try really hard to keep us here. That's the point. They're not saying, let's dismantle everything and be free. No, that's not the way it works. Um, but I also think it's a very satanic realm, and I'm going on a biblical journey myself. I've been awake as a flat earther for 10 years, and I'm just starting to I've been aware of it, but I'm just starting to try and delve into it a bit more to get a greater understanding. Um, this is a satanic realm. There is no doubt. Okay, there's too much evil that goes on here. Everything's inverted. Everything is satanic. They're not even hiding it anymore. It's all over the TV. It's everywhere. Everything satanic is there.
Why would they want to hide it?
Well, but you don't. I think you wouldn't want to let the people know that this is a satanic world controlled by satanic.
But why not do that right from the start and just go, this is a satanic world.
I
Every
think
time
I think
anyone's
we're at a
brought.
juncture, Richard. I think we're at a juncture in time where it doesn't matter. All the layers are going to be revealed. Everything's coming off, right? You're either at an end time or you're at a time of mass change very soon. All of the veils have been lifted. I mean, they spend all of this money to try and keep us stupid. The flat earth, we all woke up from the flat earth about 10 years ago. We all woke up from other things a few years ago. And every day we're all finding out more and more information. It's like running up the side of a hill, we are, and it's trying to get to the top. They're doing the same. And I guess it's who reaches there first. And back to what you said about the creation of reality, I think that's absolutely sure. I was told, I was speaking to someone about this very thing. I don't know that if, for example, if you want to take it biblically, Lucifer came down. He was given dominion over the earth. He was God's right hand man. He sat with him in the cherubim, as discussed. God was not going to destroy somebody like that who was his confidant. The point was he was going to make man in his own image. He wanted just God and his son to do it. That was the start of the rebellion for Lucifer. Took some of the angels with him, came down and said, get stuff. He said, fine, have dominion over the earth if that's what you want to be. That's fine. But you don't have free will and you cannot create anything. So I think they use us to create their reality. I think we're all very capable of creating our own, but we're so stupid, or we have been stupid. We don't know how to do it. We don't know what we're doing. But through programming, the TV, everything else, we create the reality that they want. And it's generally to harm us or to put us in some sort of fear state. So yeah, I think that could be it. I don't know is the answer.
Are you a spiritual person?
Define.
Well, if you close your eyes, turn everything else off,
Mhm.
and work out who you are as an as a consciousness, are you somebody that prescribes that? Do you see yourself as just being a man in a body, or do you see yourself as somebody that's connected to a higher realm or a consciousness that all of
I,
this
I think I think there's no doubt that we have consciousness. We are part of something. We are all roughly the same. We all have the same body types. We are all designed in the same way for a specific purpose, whatever that is. I don't know. Am I spiritual? Do I know I have no idea who I am. Is the honest answer. We like to think we've got a handle on who we are, what we are. 10 years ago, I thought we lived on a globe. 4 years ago, I'd have taken a vaccine. I didn't, obviously, because I was a flat earther, and no flat earther was taken in by it from day one. Everybody knew. And that's why flat earth is important. It makes you research. It's a bullshit detector of absolute astonishment. It changes you. It changes your perception. It makes you, or it enables you to, I don't know, if you want to be spiritual, vibrate slightly higher than the dense thing that they try and keep you in. And everybody's doing that now. Everybody's wants to know the truth and everybody's waking up, and it is a mad, crazy time. I have no idea to what end this is going to happen, but when they wake up, they'll go so far, and then they want to know about flat earth. And this is what we're finding now. So
So, would you say then that flat earther people are effectively stuck in 3D? Do you subscribe to the 5D? What do they call it? Ascension.
I think when you become a flat earther, you go back to the simple basics, which is prove it to me. prove it to me. And then because there's a scientific method of proof, how you determine and validate the null or not the null. It's very simple. It's a one or no. It's a yes or no. There's a procedure for it.
Yeah.
When you say things about 5D and all this thing, it's like, I say, well, could be, but prove it. Where's any evidence whatsoever, apart from a co-opted New Age movement, which is sometimes ridiculous. So you become very sort of resilient as a flat earther because you're bullshit.
So are you saying to me that ought to, not ought to, but you're offering a proposition in which you're saying this is the land that is flat. I can prove it with certain scientific measurements.
Absolutely.
However, I'm not open to New Age
I'm not saying I'm not open to it. Don't get me wrong. Don't misunderstand.
I wouldn't dream of getting you wrong.
Don't misunderstand me.
I don't want to get you wrong.
I'm not saying I'm not open to it, but
your level of proof has to be a 3D scientific level of proof rather than, say, intuition.
Intuition isn't proof; it's a feeling, and I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's not truth. I'm not saying it's not truth. But right. If someone's going to this is how I've become very sort of.
But then you see, you're using things like the Bible, which to certain degrees we can only go so far to prove what that means and what it says.
Absolutely. So I take the bits that are relevant in plain English to say what things are.
And which version of the Bible do you refer to?
That's a very good point. That is a very good point. So you have to take the Greek or the Hebrew scripture.
Why at that point in time when that was written, why not earlier texts and things like,
Well, you have to, this is what I'm saying, you do verify it with many ancient cultures. Because when you first start to see what ancient cultures think that they live on, you think, well, why is it what's going on here? So you do have to do all that historical research.
Because the Bible presumably has been written in, I'd say presumably, I have no idea. I'm making a sweeping statement there, which is ridiculous. But it may have been written in order to contain people and be propaganda in and of itself.
Absolutely. I'm not
anything that's been written is a framing from somebody's point of view, which may or may not be true. Who knows? What is truth?
I totally agree with everything you're saying there. I think the Bible was written by man. Some of the parts of the Bible are very hard to believe. Thou shalt not kill, but go and stone that man to death. Go and kill those children. Okay, I understand those duality types of things in there. I don't understand it myself, but taking the non-specific stories that were probably written by man rather than the actual word of God, which is perhaps a thing.
But I mean, what do you define as God?
Well, this is the thing. This is the creator, isn't it? This is the person that I can say built this flat level plane.
And when you say person, what do you mean? What do you mean by?
Else tell you.
So, what do you mean by this is a fascinating conversation, by the way. What do you mean by person? If you say that God is the person.
Oh, come on, Richard. I don't know. However,
right.
In the Bible it says he wanted to make man in his own image. And it says his name.
Well, yes, but remember, it's written by a bloke, probably, or a woman.
It's a very strange thing it's a weird dichotomy to understand if he's human, if he's not human, what it is. We don't know. We're never going to know. Maybe we might know if we die. It might all be true. It might all be a load of nonsense. But
is it a distraction? The flat Earth. Is it a distraction? Are we, if we're pursuing that, how does it help us in our...
You're doing is, most of the other things at the moment, all you're doing is fighting government. You're fighting a pointless thing that's controlling your mind. They're irrelevant people, but they are agents of higher people that want to do bad things to us.
Yes.
So if you want to...
I suppose you fight battles
that you've been battling the government your entire life. Everyone battles the government every day for some nonsense that they do or say. But they are in control of us. They shouldn't be. They work for us. We just forgot that somewhere along the line.
But we could topple that if we had a mind to. I'm not. This is not me inciting anything, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Richard, if we had mind to, and it's not just having the mind to; it's having the people to do it at the same time. Flat Earth is very important because it breaks down everything for you, and you don't go back to believing a globe. Not one. And there are millions of us. You don't go, oh, crikey, I'm a flat earther
I
now.
mean, you kind of described half a Earth, half a sphere, haven't you? By putting a
I'm
dome over
only
the.
I'm only doing that because that's what the ancient cultures had. They had when we mentioned the snow globe effect. That's
Yes.
how all the ancient cultures are depicted. The roof might not be curved at all. It might be a thing of our eyes. It might be a completely flat plane. When you look at long distances, your eyes seem to curve it down. It's not. It's completely straight.
I mean,
Flat.
when you use the term roof, it sounds very man-made, doesn't it?
It was from biblical description. It was beaten out like molten glass and various other descriptions of it. Some people think it's crystalline. Some people think that the actual whole thing turns, creates the electricity with the salt water, which and the current. Obviously, that's how the tides work. You don't have tidal movement in non-salt water. So anode and cathode, sun and moon, the dome turns, or whatever it is turns or moves. The galvanic cell within the salt water creates the charge and goes from there. It's a good theory. It's a great theory. But
Ultimately, I suppose we're in something or on something that some of us, a small percentage of people, have prevented the rest of us just doing the discovery bit that, say, in Jules Verne's 2000 Leagues Beneath the Sea, they went on an adventure and went in and found a land in the ground. That may be fiction or it may even be true, who knows?
maybe true. Maybe.
But we're not permitted to go on that adventure because someone's preventing us. And that to me is a niggle that anybody would prevent us from going across Antarctic and going, look, for God's sake, let's just work this out, shall we?
They don't want us to be free, Richard. It's fairly obvious in any realm of whatever you're into, you're not allowed to be free. You can't be free in this world. It's not, you have to be in with government, you have to be stamped, you have to be logged, you have to be this. So being free and independent travel are one and the same. You're not allowed to do it. And that is a niggle. But it's also that thing where you say, right, we could change this government, we could topple this government. Yeah, okay, great, let's do it. But I think if people understand where they live and on what they live, it would stop them from being as stupid and being sold wars and everything else that they think the government loves them into.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, my hour has just passed, elapsed.
All right.
But I would love to argue that point because, I mean, quite what difference it would make if people just were aware that it was flat all round. You'd probably still have people arguing with one another and wars still going on.
I think
But
this is the weird thing, Richard, in that whether you believe the Bible or you don't believe the Bible, and I'm struggling with it myself, it leads you to a creator. Somebody made this thing. The Big Bang was first postulated by a Jesuit Roman Catholic priest who was best friends with the plagiarist and cross-dresser Albert Einstein. And these things only happened in 1927. 1927, this ridiculous Jorge Lemaitre, his name was, decided that, oh no, somewhere there was an explosion, there was nothing, and then an explosion somehow, and it made everything. Ta-da. It's ridiculous. It's unprovable.
where are you? Are you anywhere in particular doing your presentation that people can come along and see?
The next one I'm doing, Richard, I'd just like to say we do a flat Earth social every last Tuesday of the month, and we have speakers, we have 60 or 70 flat earthers all descend on a Bournemouth pub. It's a really growing thing, new faces and lots of people all the time. So every last Tuesday of every month at the Pavilion Arms in Bournemouth, we have a flat earth meetup with various people presenting either flat earth or subjects in and around. The
Do,
next
do,
time I do my specific presentation will be in June at the festival that you're at. We're both speaking there.
I can't remember which one that
It's
is
the
without looking at my
Sounds,
diary.
yeah, I know, sorry. It's the Sounds Beautiful Festival
Oh
in
yes, the one they've
Wimbledon.
all been arguing about. Anyway,
Yes,
let's not go down that
yes,
road.
not
I've
that's for another
stepped
time.
well out of that. And do you have a website that people can go and look
No,
for
I
you?
don't. We have a Flat Earth Social YouTube channel. I
What's
haven't.
that called?
It's called Flat Earth Social.
Flat
Look for that on
Earth
YouTube. Flat Earth
Social.
Social.
I would put it in the description,
Um,
and people can find you there. I'm going to have to stop the video because only because of time, because I've got to nip out to the
Go,
other.
that's fine. That's fine.
I've got to nip out to the other flat Earth in my parallel dimension.
Again, prove it
I
to
have to
me.
swap myself with myself, you see, in these different dimensions. Who knows? There
Well,
may be a
this is
mirror
this is
image
the
of me.
thing. Who knows? And we all go off into flights of fantasy, what could be 5D, 10D, whatever. We don't know. Nobody knows any of those things. It either fits right in our stomach or it confirms our bias of belief. That's what it does.
Exactly.
It's not about proof.
It's
Flat
been a
Earth is
fascinating
provable.
conversation, and I'm thrilled that we did it.
Thank you.
I'm still open to the idea. I'm not saying one way or another, because in this business, you've just got to be open to it all. Because if you make a decision one way, you're going to be
It can
found
bite you on
out.
the bum, can't it?
Exactly, absolutely. So I'm open to all things. I'm happy to be a globe or to be flat. As long as I can manage to do another show tomorrow, then I'm happy and I can bung some food
It
in my
can't be
mouth.
globe, Richard. Stop that. You
No,
don't want to be lied
not.
to. You don't want to
I'm
live
not.
a
I'm
lie.
not. I'm just saying I'm open to all ideas. Until
Okay.
next time, ladies and gentlemen, that was the lovely Ian. I've written your name down. I can't find it now. Here we go. Leahy. There we go. Ian Leahy, and do check him out on at Flat Earth Social on YouTube. Link in the description. Had a fascinating conversation. Thank you, Ian. Really appreciate
Thanks,
it. It was
Richard.
great fun. Until next time, till I do another monologue and another wonderful interview from Ian and I. Look after yourselves and don't fall off the edge. Until next time, bye bye.
Thanks.